Hey guys, this is Matt from Amateur Filmies and welcome to a brand new video. You'll probably notice straight away that the background is different than our usual videos, and that's just because we've been visiting Sarah's family and we'll be here for a while, so I think the next few videos will probably be using this background, so hopefully it looks alright on camera. Just want to say as well, I hope that everyone is doing okay with the current coronavirus situation, that you're all staying safe, and that your families are all staying healthy. Sarah and I, we're doing okay as well, and we just hope that the situation de-escalates sometime soon. But yeah, I hope that you're all doing well. Before we get into the video, I just want to give another quick reminder as well that we're currently running a 500 subscriber contest. The contest ends on the 1st of April and it requires a video entry. I'll link down the contest video in the description box of this video, but we really encourage you to enter. We'd love to see your video responses and you'll get a chance to win some really cool Blu-rays. So in today's video, we'll be going through some of the pickups that Sarah and I got during the Arrow Video Arrow Academy flash sale that I think happened at the start of March. And I think there's about 8 titles total, but yeah, we'll be going through each of those, and we hope you enjoy. The only reason that these films weren't included in the Blu-ray haul video we just did is because they arrived literally the day after we filmed that video. And as you guys know, when we show off movies on this channel, we like to give our thoughts on the film, you know, like a little mini review or whatever. So leading up to filming this video, I tried to watch as many of them as I could. It hasn't been that long since I got them, but I think I've managed to watch around 6 out of the 8 that I've gotten. So we'll start off the video by showing the 2 that I haven't yet seen. So the first film that I'll be showing is an Arrow Video title, and this is Lords of Chaos. I've been wanting this particular title for quite a long time now, and I actually probably would have had it by now. It's just that in all the previous Arrow sales, whenever I went to add this one to the cart, it was always sold out, but thankfully I actually managed to grab one during this flash sale. The only reason I haven't watched this one yet is because I've been holding off watching it until I can see it with Sarah's brother Richie, just because we've both been highly anticipating this film and we're also very familiar with the events that the film is based on as well. So hopefully it lives up to our expectations. I've heard some pretty good things about it, especially on, I think, the Arrow Video podcast too, I believe, covered it. But yeah, hopefully it's good. And the second film that I'm yet to see is an Arrow Academy title called Three Women, directed by Robert Altman. So the thing that initially drew me to this film was the fact that it was directed by Robert Altman, whose films I've started to become more interested in since watching Gosford Park, which I really enjoyed. Apparently it's a known classic, and I've read some really good reviews of this film, and in particular I heard that it actually draws a lot of inspiration from Ingmar Bergman's Persona, which I thought was really cool. I believe the film came out in around 1977 and actually stars Shelley Duvall and Sissy Spacek, and I can't even think of the last film that I watched with Shelley Duvall in it. Obviously it must have been The Shining, but I actually don't think I've seen her in anything else, so it'd be interesting to see how she plays her role in this one. But I really look forward to checking this one out sometime soon. Next up, we have another Arrow Academy title, and this is The Conformist. So this film got released in 1970, I believe, and it's set during 1930s fascist Italy, and it's basically about a guy named Marcello Clerici, if I'm remembering correctly, and he's tasked with the secret police with assassinating his former professor who has since become a political dissident. I have to say, I really, really love this film, and I actually picked up 2 Italian films, and it was a nice change of pace to watch 2 that weren't necessarily horror for a change. Of course, I love my Italian horror, but I actually haven't seen that many Italian films that weren't horror. I think the last one I watched was probably Bicycle Thieves, which I also really loved, but I'm really, really glad to have watched this one finally because it's really, really good. The cinematography in this film is absolutely gorgeous. It's really like one of the most beautifully shot movies that I've seen in a long time, and I can really see why like big directors like Martin Scorsese and Michael Mann have gone on record to say that they've taken inspiration from this film because it really does look that good. Not only is it shot very well, but it's also a really compelling story. Basically, our main character, he really desires a normal life, but his perception of normal is skewed by the fact that he lives in fascist Italy. So when he's actually tasked with going to assassinate his former professor, who's since moved abroad to, I believe, France, his views and perspective are constantly challenged because he has the experience of living in this fascist Italy and then he goes to somewhere more progressive, and so he can't really decide on how he actually feels. The differences in these settings as well between Italy and France, where the films sort of alternate between, is really also greatly communicated through the use of color and shadow. Like basically with Italy, as I keep mentioning, it was a fascist time period during the 1930s, and it's portrayed as being very, very like bland and drab and sort of dark. And then when you move forward to France, it's much more vibrant and lively because the community is a lot more connected and it's much more progressive. So I really liked how that was represented in the film, and I thought it added a bit of flavour to the film as well. So the next film I'll be showing is the Robert Altman film that I alluded to earlier. This is The Long Goodbye. So this film came out in 1973 and it stars Elliot Gould in the role of Philip Marlowe. Now, my understanding of this character, Philip Marlowe, is that he's sort of similar to characters like Sherlock Holmes in that he's in multiple movies but portrayed by different actors at various points. I haven't seen another film with the character Philip Marlowe before, but I think the most notable example would be Humphrey Bogart in the film The Big Sleep. This is a neo-noir film, and you can definitely see why it falls into that genre given the plot and the characters in this. You've basically got the smooth-talking detective who smokes all the time, you've got the urban setting, you've got the murder plot with all the twists and turns, and also the stylistic use of shadow as well. And it was really, really cool to watch this film and how it sort of drew inspiration from the older noir films as well. I think the strongest component of this film for me was probably the acting. I thought Elliot Gould played the role really well. I did want to mention that, as I said, I haven't actually seen any other films where this character is portrayed, so I'm not really sure like the degree to which he was successful in playing this character. Like, I don't know how much he brought his own flavor versus playing it straight-laced or whatever. But as far as just watching this film for the first time and being introduced to this character, I thought he played it extremely well. But I do actually look forward to watching other films with this character because if they're like him, I'm sure I'll find enjoyment in some of those as well. The actor Sterling Hayden was in this film as well, and he played like a type of tortured artist, tortured writer kind of character. And I thought he played it really well, and it was really good seeing him on screen as well because I really enjoyed him in the two Kubrick films, Dr. Strangelove and The Killing. I thought he's a really great actor, and he definitely showed his chops in this. There was actually two other actors I recognized in this as well, and one of them is named Henry Gibson, who, if you've seen The Burbs, he plays the creepy antagonist doctor character, and yeah, he always freaked me out when I was a kid. I would recognize him anywhere. And it's actually also got Arnold Schwarzenegger in it, of all people. This one came out in 1973, as I said before, so it was really weird seeing him in it. And as you can imagine, it's probably one of his first ever acting roles, and he played like a big hulking henchman. He was only in the film for like 2 minutes or something like that, but it was just really weird seeing him in it, but cool as well. One of the other things that irked me about this film just a little bit is that I think it deviated from the main mystery just a little bit too much, especially around the halfway point, like in going into the third act. It just felt like they kept going into all these random situations that weren't really connected to the main story. And while it was, it was alright to watch, I found myself losing a bit of interest in that way. But the film actually did end on a really, really strong note with a really memorable shot as well. So overall, I really did enjoy this film. I can see it being one that I could rewatch pretty easily because it is quite engaging, and it is one that I'd recommend, especially if you do like noir-type films. In our previous Criterion video, I talked about how much I've been wanting to pick up this release, and I finally got it. This is Krzysztof Kieślowski's Decalogue. While I haven't completely finished this, I hope you can forgive me because it does go for a total of just under 10 hours. But if you don't know much about Decalogue, basically it's 10 episodes, which are pretty much standalone films that go for an hour each. And so far I've watched the first 3 episodes. And as far as how I would rank them, I'd probably rank them in the order that I've watched them. So episode 1's been my favorite, then 2, then 3. But all 3 of them have been brilliant so far. I can't wait to watch the rest of these episodes, and I really can't wait as well for Arrow to finally send out the Krzysztof Kieślowski box set that they're doing as well, which includes another 4 of his films, because after watching the 3 Colors trilogy and some of this, I've totally bought into his work, so I can't wait to watch more of it. Another Arrow Academy title, we have the film Demon Lover. This is a very strange movie. It came out in 2002 and it stars Connie Nielsen, Gina Gershon, and I'm going to say her name wrong, but I believe it's Chloe Sevigny or Chloe Savini, something like that. But it actually has multiple languages in it. It's predominantly spoken in French, but there is English and even Japanese as well. The film is kind of hard to explain, to be honest. Basically, it's about these 2 corporations that are trying to compete for a business deal that would allow them to sort of distribute a type of adult content worldwide. But like, these business dealings are sort of made complicated by the fact that they're using spies to try and sabotage the other. I'm a little bit mixed on this one. By the end, I found that I was more interested in the type of ideas it was trying to explore and the style of the film rather than the actual plot itself. Not going to give away spoilers, of course, but around halfway through the film, there's like a type of turning point where from that moment on, the story starts to kind of unravel and derail and doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, just becomes extremely convoluted, and a lot of the time I wasn't really sure what was really going on. Prior to buying this, I remember reading about the film on Wikipedia, and it said like one of the primary themes was the desensitization to violence. I can definitely see that at certain points in this movie. For one, a lot of the characters in the film are written to be very cold and aloof, and they almost always have bad intentions. And while I won't go into specific plot details, you can see the corporate nature of this film and how there's a really big emotional and moral detachment from the content that they intend to produce and distribute. And I thought that sort of tied in nicely with the primary theme that apparently they were trying to explore, which, as I said, was the desensitization to violence. Overall, I don't think I could strongly recommend this one. I just felt like I only liked certain parts of it, but the film as a whole felt like a little bit of a mess. It wasn't unenjoyable. Like, I actually was very interested to see where the story went, but as I said, it did start to derail at certain points, and I think that some people might find that a bit frustrating when they're watching this. It was well acted and well shot, but just, it's, as I said, just not the strongest story at the end of the day. With this next release, I was lucky enough to still get the slipcover actually, and it is Arrow Video's Cruisin. I actually hadn't heard of Cruisin until Arrow Video first announced it, and I did my research, and it did actually sound like a film that I would have enjoyed. First off, it stars Al Pacino, who's obviously a great actor, but I also liked the idea of watching him in a hunt for a serial killer type of film. And to top it off, it's also directed by William Friedkin, who obviously did The Exorcist, but also To Live and Die in LA, which Arrow Video did a release of as well. Unfortunately, it didn't really live up to my expectations. There were a couple of things in this film that really brought it down as far as my overall enjoyment. I really wanted to like this movie, but I just couldn't really reconcile those things. I think my biggest gripe with the film was how they approached the investigation in the film regarding the serial killings. Look, I'm not a police detective, so I don't know what would work best, but I can also make a fairly educated guess as to what might not work, and I feel like the way they approached in this film is something that just seems totally impractical. The basic gist is that Al Pacino's character goes undercover in the first place because he bears very strong physical resemblance to the other victims, and the idea that the police department have is that he should just go around to all these different underground bars and nightclubs and just hope that the serial killer picks him as a target. That to me doesn't sound practical at all, and it really shows in the film because we get a lot of scenes of Al Pacino just walking into different bars and hanging out for a bit and then leaving. Nothing really of substance really happens that much, and when it does happen, it's few and far between. And I feel like in an investigation-based movie like this, you really want the plot to feel like it's moving forward and to have new interesting details emerge, and this one just stalled like way too much in my opinion. I do wish that I liked this film a bit more than I did, but that said, I do know that when Sarah watched it with me that she actually enjoyed it a lot more than I did, so maybe you feel the same way as her. This one just unfortunately wasn't for me. So for the last film I'm going to be showing today is the other Italian film that I sort of mentioned earlier when I was talking about The Conformist, and I'm going to butcher the name on this one, so I'm just going to go with the English translation, which I think is correct. This is Cinema Paradise. I cannot for the life of me remember the correct way to pronounce this movie. I first learned about this film back in the day when I was looking at the IMDb top 250 list, and while I don't necessarily put too much stock in the IMDb ratings and their lists and stuff like that, it is also a good way to find out about movies that you hadn't known about previously, and that, as I said, is how I found out about this film. This particular Arrow Academy release comes with two different cuts of the film. You get the theatrical cut and the extended cut, I believe. And I always struggle with that because there are a lot of there are a lot of Blu-ray releases that include multiple cuts of a film, but when, I try and watch a lot of different movies, and so I try and get the most optimal cut on my first watch because I don't know when I'm going to be revisiting that film. I do plan on rewatching this in the future, but who knows how long it's going to be, and that's the problem that I ran into when I first watched The Exorcist 3 with Sarah. So in this case, I did a little bit of research. I wanted to know which was the better cut to watch without spoiling for myself, and it turned out that was the theatrical cut, which is the one I watched, and it was brilliant. This film had a lot of charm, and it's basically a journey through the main character's memories back from when he was a child through to his teenage years, and how his relationship developed with the local cinema's projectionist, and how they bonded over the love of film. The film is shot really well, and it's just a great feel-good movie. It's very joyous in tone, and I feel like it's a type of film where if you love film, or you're interested in the art of filmmaking as well, there are a lot of like throwbacks to old cinema in this, and just I think you will find a lot of the visuals in this to be really, really interesting. As I'm standing here filming this, I can't really think of too many negative things to say about this movie, to be honest. I definitely did prefer the first half of the film though, but that's just a personal thing. I just found the time when he was recalling his memories as a child to be a lot more fun, a lot more charming, and just the certain events that transpired in the first half, I found them to be a lot more interesting rather than the second half. But that's not to, as I said, that's not to talk down about the second half, which was also really good too. At the end of the day, this is just a beautiful movie that is also very well crafted, and is one that I would have fun rewatching in the future. I'm going to definitely get the others in my family to watch this as well, because it really is, as I said, a feel-good movie. So that brings us to the end of today's video. Thank you very much as always for watching. As usual, if you have any recommendations based on what we've shown here today, let us know. And if you have any opinions on the films that we did show today, also let us know, because Sarah and I love reading your comments. Again, just another friendly reminder, we are running the 500 subscriber contest, which ends on the 1st of April, Australian Eastern Standard Time. I'll leave a link to the giveaway video before for the guidelines, but yeah, try and get your entries in before then. We really look forward to seeing your video entries and to also give away some great prizes as well. Stay safe out there. Sarah and I both really hope that you and your families are doing well given this whole current health crisis that we're going through at the moment. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.